Okay, I wanted to talk to you today about education and, in many ways, looking after your own education. I know that you have come to university and you have paid a lot of money, many thousands of pounds every year, in order to get what you would call a good education. And that's very true. We will provide you the best education that we can for the sum of money which you've paid and that the university can provide. And it will be a very good education. But what you must not misunderstand is that the areas of education that we will provide and the instruction that we provide is a very narrow one. It's a very narrow field that you have chosen. You have chosen to do computing studies. That's a great choice. Provides you with lots of jobs and lots of opportunities to develop your skills and your knowledge. But it's very, very narrow, and it will not enable you to play a wide and full and complete role in the world. In order to do that, you need a much wider education than merely one which is confined to computing. And it's something I wanted to talk to you about today, which I think is very important to understand. That the world is a much bigger place than just the narrow area that you've chosen. And for you to develop yourself and your skills properly, you need a much wider understanding of what you need to learn in order to be someone who has a full role in the world. I would want to call that kind of an education commonly known as a liberal education. It's one where you learn things not merely enabled to get a job or to gain skills, but it's one where you learn things in order to become a better person, a person who is more able to fully take part in a wide range of activities and to extend themselves into the world in a way which really benefits not only themselves but also to other people too. It's a much wider skill than you would think. And for that part of education, you will need to take full responsibility yourself because nobody else will provide that for you. So, what I'm advocating is the widening out of horizons to view things in a much more global sense. You know, we tend to think as a university that when you come here, the thing that we're providing you with, the biggest learning experience that we're going to give you, is what takes place in lectures and in seminars. You know, I don't think that's true. I think we don't fully appreciate what it is that learning is really all about and what the biggest elements of learning are really about. I think that we don't fully account of the fact that, you know, at your age, leaving home for the first time is probably the biggest experience you've ever encountered, the biggest challenge you've ever faced. And learning how to move from a comfortable setting, which you know, which you understand, which you take full knowledge of, and to move into an area which you know nothing about, to be called away from home, to be called into an area which you are grappling with new things all the time. That's a much bigger learning experience, I think, than anything that will be provided for you within the context of a university lecture hall. Learning to make associations with new people, learning to socialize, learning to grapple with new systems, new approaches, new things. It's a massive learning curve, but one which is absolutely vital and which why I always recommend that people should leave home if they possibly can. To move, I know the financial constraints might possibly, but to move to another area, to grapple with challenges and problems which will push you to the extremity of what you understand and what you already know, and will take you into that zone of proximal development, as Vygotsky called it, the zone which will extend your abilities and powers beyond what you've already been able to grasp and understand. I want to introduce you to that pathway a little bit. I wanted to introduce you to the idea of learning not for the sake of getting a skill and getting a job, but the idea of learning for your sake and to improve yourself and to improve your own life as a consequence and the lives of others around you. Adam Smith was a great economist in Scotland a century or so ago, and he wrote a book about the wealth of nations, and he explained how people could become wealthy within themselves. His book was all about wealth, and he spoke of particular techniques and ways in which wealth creation could improve and abound, and one of those things was the division of labour. He spoke about the division of labour as being a very important role in society, enabling to specialise in such a way that society could produce more and more things and sell more and more things and become more prosperous. That was the point. What is the division of labour? The division of labour is a very simple idea. It was the production line technique. It was the idea that if you have one man who was creating an artifact, a skillful artifact, where he had to learn the skill to do this and do that, maybe some woodworking skills, maybe some metal skills, it would take a long time to produce that particular object. But if you could divide up the labour of that object so that you gave it, maybe a production line for a car. Henry Ford used this brilliantly. The idea that you would get someone who would do the painting, the spray painting, someone else who would fix the doors on. It would go down a production line, someone else would put the wheels in place, someone else would put the engine in place, someone else would do... And so a little part was given to one particular person, and then it moved on, and another part was given to another person. You divide the labour up into a team of people, then you would massively increase the productivity. And so that proved to be true. You could produce, 100 as many cars with 100 people doing different things than if you had 100 people all creating their own car. You could create far more. The division of labour, that was what he spoke of. But he also recognised something very important about the division of labour, and that was that it was a soul-destroying, human reducing to machine kind of labour, which was very unrewarding for human beings to be involved in. For example, if you create a beautiful box and a beautiful car, you can take pride in what you're doing, and you can enjoy the product of your labour. But if all your job is to put a widget in a particular hole and move a lever and then move on, and the next one put another widget in and move a lever and then the next one moves on, and so on, so that you do that 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 times a day, that becomes a soul-destroying job, and you have nothing to show for your life if that's all you do every day, day in, day out. And it dehumanises people. And Adam Smith recognised that. So what he advocated was, and this is interesting, he advocated a liberal education for all the workers. Why? Not to make them better widget fitters to pull the lever, but to make them better human beings, to enable them to enjoy, as he put it, their leisure time, not their work time. And that spins education on its head, that it makes you fitter to enjoy the world around you, society around you, the culture around you, than you could ever be before. The fact of the matter is that you live in the most unprecedented golden age of information and ability. You have at your disposal every classic book, every classic piece of work of art, every brilliant piece of music, and it's all available to you at the click of a button. You go to a computer, you can download every great work of art from the very earliest painters of the very earliest ages, right the way through to Renaissance times, through to where, and the most modern pieces of art. You can look at literature too. You can look at books written by the Greek philosophers, right the way through to the Middle Ages, and through to the Renaissance, and to the Reformation, and to the Enlightenment, and right up to present day, and the history of everything is open to you. Everything is available to you, if only you would have the interest and motivation to do that? Well, I'm trying to suggest to you that this is something you need to really take on board as an important part of your education. The resources are there. You only have to reach out and take them. And in doing so, learning and growing as a human being and becoming a fuller and a rounder person. I'm going to take a few odd videos from here on in to recommend to you some books, maybe even some works of art, maybe some music as well, which maybe you've not been aware of. Things which are unknown to you, things which I have picked up ever since I was a student at university, and to share with you some of the things which have been just mind expanding, which have opened up horizons and vast areas of interest for me, which I'm going to pass on to you. So, I want you to take that seriously in the sense that you understand that education is really your responsibility. It's a lifelong process. It's not just about the narrow field that you've chosen. There's a bigger world out there of philosophy, of mathematics, of psychology, about human beings, how they work, relationships between them, history, the things that you learn so that you don't repeat the mistakes of the past. You could become a very knowledgeable person and one to whom people would turn to when they really need to know something or to rely on somebody. That's what really education is about, making you a fuller and a better person. We're going to talk about that, and I'm going to give you some suggestions about that as we move on.